Hey, Ashley here from Ashley Marie Fitness, and welcome back to my vlog. So this is the second video I've posted in my vlog, and if you weren't able to tune into the first one, it's still linked just below here. But what we talked about in the first video, just wanted to touch base on what this vlog is going to be about, the types of content that I would like to put out there, and of course an offering for you to let me know what you'd like to hear more of as well. I also told a little bit about myself, my fitness history, why I do what I do now, how I got here, all of that kind of stuff. And in my last video, I mentioned that I would be talking about some subjects a little bit more in depth, some things like self-doubt and motivation and inspiration, all of that kind of stuff. So today's video is about self-doubt. Again, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how self-doubt has played a role in my life, things that I've done to sort of combat it or rather move through it, and some tips and tricks that I think could be helpful for you that have worked for me. So let's dive right in. A couple of days ago, my birthday passed, my 32nd birthday. 32. How do we get here? So this is the first year that I had one of those moments where I was like, wow, you are old. Like 16 years ago, you were 16 years old. And I can remember when I felt like 16 was the prime of my life. Newsflash, it's not, but. So anyhow, each year on my birthday, I become a little bit nostalgic, a little bit reflective, thinking about the past year, the past 10 years, the past 16 years this time. And those practices I find super helpful in some ways, helps to sort of realign your purpose, acknowledge yourself for how hard you've worked and how far you've come, but it also starts to shine a light on those comparisons that you create between you and your friends, or maybe you and just somebody else of your age that you see on social media or someone that you look up to. And then in comes the self-doubt. So I just want to touch base on a few things here. The first one is comparison. And I know there's all those quotes out there about how we shouldn't compare ourselves to others and how comparison is the thief of joy and all of those things. And yes, to a degree, I do agree with that. However, we are human. And so that's what we do. We compare things. We compare different types of rice to determine what we're going to buy at the grocery store. We compare movie reviews to see what movie we're going to go see at the Cineplex on Friday night. We compare everything. So it's only natural that we start to compare ourselves. So this isn't to say that it's okay. This is just more to say it's a natural thing, and I think we should all just cut ourselves a little bit of slack for it. Let's get back to the point and talk about self-doubt. So what tends to happen for me on my birthday when I get a little bit reflective, I start to think about all of those shoulds. Like, oh, I should have a better built business by now. I should be more financially stable by now. I should own a house by now. I should yada, yada, yada. You get it. Whatever your shoulds are, those things that society puts on us, or those things that we see when we compare ourselves to others that we've determined that we should have. Okay. So even though we might know that we don't want to compare ourselves to others and that we're on our own journey and this is my life and I'm going to do it the way that I want to and all of that stuff, there's a difference between knowing and feeling, right? Like a really big difference. So I might know that a year ago, I wasn't a personal trainer. A year ago, I didn't have the client base I had now. I had 0 clients because I wasn't a personal trainer. Now I've made all of this growth. I can know that and be proud of that, and at the same time be like, but shouldn't I be doing this? So why do we create these shoulds in our life other than societal pressures? Insert self-doubt. So let's say you have this great idea. You're like, yeah, I'm really, really excited. Like for me, the example was, it wasn't even my idea. It was actually my partner's idea to start doing these vlog posts. And I thought, that's a great idea. I should do that. And then I thought, should I do that? Will anybody want to watch my videos? Does anybody care what I have to say? Am I even important enough to do this? And all of these things that we deep down have developed this story about ourselves that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, somebody else is doing it better than we are. All of those things start to come into my mind and make me want to just be like, nope, not happening. So I procrastinate. You know that feeling where you're like, I'm gonna do this. It sounds really cool, but I'm gonna have to step way outside of my comfort zone, put myself so far out there, be really uncomfortable, and hope that somebody likes it. Welcome to my vlog. So what can we do when we get to that place where we're like, I have this great idea and I want to put it into action. I have all these great plans, but I don't know if I can actually do this. I don't know if this is a viable option. Well, first things first, perspective. Take a look at where you have felt the most fear in your life. And take a look at what was attached to that fear. So maybe for you, you had a fear of, I don't know, skydiving. Okay. And then you did it anyway. And how cool is that? Or you had a fear of going back to school, getting a degree. And then at the end of that degree, you're like, hey, I just did that awesome thing that I never thought that I could do. Putting it into perspective is the first piece. So let's talk a little bit about fear and why these self-doubts even come into play. One of my favorite podcasts that I've ever listened to was from a man that I look up to. His name is Ben Bergeron. And if you've never heard of him, he's in the CrossFit community. He's a very high-level coach to some of the world's fittest athletes. So he did a podcast on fear, and he talked about how fear is such an evolutionary response, how we feel it in our bodies, we go into that fight or flight, that sympathetic nervous system response, and how that has a purpose in some cases, and also had a purpose, henceforth why we still have this now. So there are two main types of fear, as he describes it, that each kind of smaller fear can be separated into these two categories. Now the first one is like a physical fear. So say our ancestors were afraid because they had to run away from large predators. That's a valid fear. The same fear that we have right now when you step out into oncoming traffic and you almost get hit by a bus. That's a valid fear. You're actually fearing for your safety, for your life. Then there's the other type of fear. The type of fear of being left out, of being ostracized, of being made fun of, and just being not accepted. So that type of fear came from the fact that when we were in tribes, we had to coexist. There were hunters, there were gatherers, we had to coexist. We had to find food, we had to make the food, we had to make shelter. Our ancestors had to do all of this and they couldn't do it alone. So at that point, if you were ostracized from the group, you wouldn't be able to meet all of those primary needs and therefore you wouldn't make it. Well, now, in this day and age, of course, we don't rely on each other quite the same as we used to. So although that fear is still there, it's actually not something that is going to cause any significant long-term damage. So that's the kind of fear that we need to push ourselves through or move through. How do you take a look at those self-doubts and get past that to be able to put yourself out there past your comfort zone and do something that you actually want to do? The first tip I have for you is to surround yourself with people who are can-do people. Now, what I mean by that is the type of people that you can go to with your ideas and they want to know, how can I help? They want to know more information about the idea. They have additional ideas they want to bounce off of you. You know, we've all had those people in our lives that we've interacted with, and every time we've brought forth an idea, they've shot it down immediately. Like, oh, that'll never work, or, you know, how are you going to make that happen, or something along those lines. The people that you want in your corner are the people that want you to succeed. The second tip I have is to keep it simple and set a timeline. So we can create these big goals that we think, like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan or whatever that looks like. And those are great. but there are steps to get there. And steps can be broken up pretty small, pretty manageable. That way you can set goals that are attainable, that don't make you feel super overwhelmed, like you don't have time, all of the other excuses or self-doubts that will arise when you're doing this. Now, another thing, an important thing to do is to pick a date. Set a time, figure out when you're going to do this, when you're going to have it done by, and then get it done. Sometimes it's not as easy as getting it done, or it doesn't feel as easy as getting it done. I can relate. I'm a procrastinator myself. So that's where we enroll the help of a friend, a family member, a partner, whoever that is for you that can help to keep you accountable. The final tip I have for you is to prioritize your self-care. It's very difficult to move through any of those self-doubts if you are not eating properly, sleeping properly, exercising on a regular basis, and taking time to just slow down, to breathe, to meditate, and to do whatever makes you feel good and relaxed. So thanks for watching another one of my videos. If you have any comments, questions at all, please feel free to drop me a line below. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and go ahead and follow me on Instagram at ashley.marie.fitness. Stay tuned for another video coming very shortly with a HIIT workout that you can do without any equipment. All you need is yourself and a little bit of space. It can be done in your own living room or maybe in your office on your lunch break.